But first tonight, international stars of stage and screen used to pitch up here to appear on Pebble Mill at 1. Did that bring back some memories for you? Well, once the BBC had left Birmingham's leafy suburbs, the demolition gangs moved in to create a science park. Our money was used to buy this land and other areas across the West Midlands. So what happened to the grand designs? Giles Latcham has been piecing together a massive property puzzle.
This is a story about millions of pounds of property crisscrossing the West Midlands. Land bought for the region to encourage economic growth.
They're moving us out on a promise to other people that there will be a development here.
They built up a land and property portfolio of over £100 million. Most of that is gone. It's left the region.
It's a story about the government taking local property from the people of the West Midlands. It's taken us months to uncover, and even now details are struggling to see the light of day. For 13 years, the West Midlands had its own regional agency dedicated to boosting our economy. Called Advantage West Midlands, it was taxpayer funded to secure investment and create jobs. But I'm interested in the property it bought. Millions of pounds spent buying and regenerating places like Longbridge, I-54, Pebble Mill and Birmingham East Side.
They were bought to establish technology corridors, science parks, business gateways, creating an estimated 10,000 jobs and £328 million a year.
But when Advantage West Midlands finally closed down in spring of this year, the property went with it. The question is, what's happened to it now?
So what do we know? In 2010, when the government announced Advantage West Midlands was to close, it owned 38 properties outright and had a stake in over 100 more.
It took 2 years to wind up, but in that time it quickly sold off sites such as Birmingham East Side, Pebble Mill and Stoneleigh Park. We've discovered this flash sale made over £26 million. 26 million that went straight to the Treasury.
But in most cases, what we don't know is who exactly the land was sold to, or for how much, making it hard for us to tell whether we got a good deal, or whether they were sold on the cheap.
26.5.
Take Pebble Mill, for example. The leasehold was bought with a promise of a brand new technology corridor, but then quietly sold back to the original owners, Calthorpe Estates. But when we tried to find out how much it was sold for, no one could tell us. In fact, we asked the government for the prices of all the properties that were flogged off. They told us it was unclear whether they held detailed records of the sales, and that it wasn't necessary for them to record how much they were sold for, or to whom.
We asked to speak to the government about this. They declined, but they told us that the regional development agencies were locally led and responsible for disposing of their own assets. Because of their independence, the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills wasn't directly involved in this process.
So what they're saying is the best way to find out the sales details is to ask an organisation that no longer exists. OK, so they don't know the details of £26 million worth of taxpayers' property sold off, but this flash sale is only part of the story.
We've discovered that Advantage West Midlands had a second, much bigger portfolio of property that wasn't sold. Instead, it was seized by Whitehall for control by central government.
And you have to delve deep into the final accounts to find out how much this was worth. A staggering £64 million. The West Midlands multi-million-pound disposal of land has caught the attention of a business expert, Professor David Bailey. He thinks the ownership of the property should have remained here to help the regional economy.
I've got no doubt that this was a land grab which took the land back into central government control so it could be flogged off and pare the debt down. That's ultimately what is driving this. Now, I would have liked to have seen it stay local. and stay under local control, whether with local authorities, so that they can actually develop that in our interests and help them kickstart the economy rather than going back to London.
So some of the property was sold and some was taken. What's the government actually doing with the land it took? Well, we've been handed a document that lists for the first time exactly what's happening. And the answer is not much. Of the 32 sites listed, only 9 have been sold off or put to use. And where building's happening, the regeneration is hard to see. Take Walsall, for example. It ranks as one of England's worst town centres for empty shops. The former Advantage West Midlands land here was thought to have been bought for around £4.5 million. But part of it's being given away to help build the town's biggest budget hotel. So the document reveals that where regeneration is taking place, the land's true potential is yet to materialise. But it reveals something else as well.
We've brought you to this patch of land particularly because of Plot A, as it's referred to, Bilston Urban Village.
What that is saying is that originally this land was bought by the Regional Development Agency, paid for by local taxpayers. It was transferred back to London, and now it's been bought again by Wolverhampton City Council. So local taxpayers have actually paid for this twice.
The government taking our land, then selling it back to us? That doesn't sound fair. We asked the government agency now in charge of the land what it was doing with the cash it made from selling our property.
So when former Advantage West Midlands land or property is sold, where's that money going? It's heading out of the region and not coming back, isn't it?
When the land is sold, the money goes into a national pot. And that money is then redistributed out into regeneration of sites across the country, depending on where a need is.
Not necessarily in the Midlands.
Not necessarily in the Midlands, but what we do is we identify where within the Midlands we need to make the investment, and we make sure that we have sufficient resources from that pot to make those happen.
So people in Walsall looking at that site, what they've seen go up so far is a hotel. Is that the limit of our ambitions, of your regeneration?
A hotel's good because otherwise people coming to do business would have stayed at a hotel on the motorway junction, maybe even stayed in Birmingham, may have stayed in Wolverhampton. It brings that inward investment, the people using nighttime facilities right into Walsall town centre.
With Bilston Village, it looks rather as if the council taxpayers of Wolverhampton have had to pay twice for that patch of land.
Well, I certainly don't know about them paying twice. When you look at the whole of the plans for Bilston Urban Village, and actually the benefit to Wolverhampton taxpayers will be at least 5 times more than the cost of that land.
Don't get me wrong, we know that the broken economy makes it hard to develop land. But that's a hard message for the people caught in the middle, like Jasvinder. Her family home of 10 years stands in the way of a regeneration plan by Warwickshire County Cricket Club and the former Advantage West Midlands. The speculative plans for expensive homes, a supermarket, hotel and car park isn't fully funded or guaranteed, but she's still being forced out by Christmas.
They're moving us out on a promise to other people that there will be a development here. They want a house and want it cheap. It's not good enough to buy a like-for-like house if they want us to go for a smaller house. I told my daughter actually one day that, oh Gina, we have to move from this house. And then she asked me, Mummy, are they going to break our house now because we're out of the house, they're going to break my house? That's what she asked me, and I haven't got any answer for that.
Lots of uncertainty then. Uncertainty too about what will happen to this site when you're gone. How do you feel about having to move out when there are no definite plans for this site?
That makes me more angry actually, because I thought the compulsory purchase order is used for public infrastructure projects, not for making restaurants or pubs or hotels. There's no need for that here. We are being forced out for no reason.
We put Jasvinder's points to Warwickshire County Cricket Club. They told me the only reason why a compulsory purchase order was sought is because of the demands from the Pataras for a payment significantly above the amounts offered by the club. The development plans were created to protect Edgbaston's status as a Category A Test match venue, and the Secretary of State accepted there was a compelling case for the compulsory purchase order. While trying to establish just how much we've lost, we've discovered the West Midlands was one of 8 regions forced to hand over their land and assets. Only London was allowed to keep hold of its property. Throughout this investigation, we've found the details shrouded in secrecy and confusion.
As a result, we've had to rely on newspaper cuttings and old parliamentary reports for our limited facts. But based on our research, our best guess is that the West Midlands handed over £107 million in land and property, the most of all the regions bar one, the South East.
This staggering sum included iconic lands such as Longbridge, Birmingham East Side, Pebble Mill, Browns Lane and I-54. While there is some government regeneration cash still out there for the region, we've lost the money paid to develop these sites, and we've lost the money to be made from selling them.
You can talk to us right now on Twitter using the hashtag InsideOut. And if there's a story from here in the West Midlands that you think we should be covering, drop me an email, mary.rhodes@bbc.co.uk.